Hi everyone, it's Lady Genevieve. Today's video is going to be a spoiler-free review of Defending Jacob episode 8, which is the final episode of the series. If you have not seen my spoiler review of episode 7, which is the most recent episode to air, I will put a link to a playlist of all of my Defending Jacob videos in the pinned comment of this video. I always prefer doing the spoiler reviews because I can actually discuss the material instead of just tiptoeing around everything like I'm about to do in this video. Unsurprisingly, this video will be short because there is a lot that happens in episode 8, but I really am not about to get myself in trouble and spoil it, but I will do my best. In episode 7, there were some big dramatic incidents and reveals that we're going to see the repercussions of in episode 8. Jacob wrote that story, and once you open Pandora's box, there's no going back. Episode 7 ended with Leonard Patz writing a letter to Ben Rifkin's parents confessing to the murder of Ben. Obviously, we are going to see how that plays out and how that affects the Barber family. Speaking of Leonard Patz, there were some comments I was getting last week that I would like to address to the best of my ability. There were some people who were trying to understand why it is that Leonard Patz is still walking around free. That's a great question, particularly after Matthew came forward about how Leonard Patz had been purchasing favors, sexual favors from him. I don't have concrete answers because I did not write the book and I did not write the show, and I'm not a lawyer. However, what I will say is that the show is only 8 episodes, and we've seen very clearly that the drama stays focused on the various members of the Barber family. It's really not that much of an ensemble series. For example, we at no point saw Sarah's parents on the show, even though it sure would have been nice to see them have a conversation in which they say that they love her and they support her and everything is going to be okay, and that if any creepy little boys ever try to come near her again, that they will get out the machete. I'm just saying. The point is that these side characters are not being fully fleshed out. These characters do have agency, but in the grand scheme of the story, the only parts of their lives that we really get to see are the ones that relate to the Barber family and Jacob's trial. If these events were happening in the real world, I'm sure all of us would hope that there would be some other figure working in law or law enforcement that would file some charges against Leonard Patz so that he could be put away. But as for the show itself, it's just not something that they're going to put on screen. Also, when you think about the mechanics of storytelling as a filmmaker, it's very important to not put in things that are only going to end up being unnecessary filler that will distract the audience from the main point of the story that you are trying to tell. And it could also disrupt the pacing, which again is not what you're aiming for. So just try to keep in mind that we only have 8 episodes to watch all of this material being adapted. I don't know if that fully answers your questions, but that's the best I can offer. Sorry. Up until this point, we've seen Ben's death, which is what incites the entire story. We've seen the lead up to the trial, and now we've seen the trial itself. Episode 8, at least on the press website, is called After. You can probably logically deduce what the episode is going to be about. The episode is asking, how is this family supposed to get on with their lives after such a cataclysmic series of events? One of the things that you are going to see in this episode is the Barber family in an entirely new location that you've never seen them before. I'm being deliberately vague so that if you are either someone that has been paying close attention to various promotional media or pap photos because you're a terrible person, then you will already have some sense of where they're going to be. But if you don't already know and you don't want it to be spoiled, well then I haven't done that. Getting into a couple of trivial details here. Jacob is telling jokes again. Did we not learn our lesson from the secret Instagram account? This is why you don't validate mediocre, unfunny boys. Don't do that. And I'm not saying that men aren't funny. Richard Ayoade and John Mulaney exist. But this demon on this show has never been funny. Stop it. Jacob also swears a lot more than he should, which is always jarring for me to watch. And it's not just the fact that he's swearing. It would be very different if it's just him swearing among his peers and his friends. He is swearing to his parents. I am 87 years old, and you don't see me dropping all these different swear words when I'm speaking to my mom. The level of caucasity, far too much. Switching gears now, one of the things that I love about episode 8 is the many lingering shots that they have on actors' faces. When you're writing stories, of course, there's a lot of work that goes into creating dialogue, but one of the wonderful things about filmmaking as an art form is how you play out when people are not saying things. There is so much that isn't being said by these characters. I mentioned this concept a bit last week when I was talking about episode 7 and how great the coverage is of Michelle Dockery when she's sitting in the courtroom for the trial. Of course, I love a good dramatic monologue, but when it comes to filmmaking, I also love a great lingering shot on an actor. One of my favorite films is Guy Ritchie's Rock'n'Rolla, and there's this one shot in the film that's one of my favorite shots of the entire film, and it's just lingering on Johnny Quid, and Toby Kebbell is emoting, and that shot is probably a large reason of why I was so beside myself when I finally got to meet Toby Kebbell last year. For better or worse, since this episode utilizes this style of storytelling so much, I find that it is really left open to interpretation by the audience. They have to decide for themselves what it is that these characters are thinking, since there's a lot that they're not saying out loud. There's a lot to consider about what is going through these characters' minds and how it concludes their arcs on the show, since this is the last episode. When you look at the show as a whole, it's definitely the type of material that facilitates a lot of discussion, which I think is really great. Hopefully people can engage in that without animosity. I don't think that fighting is necessary for discussing this particular series. Discussing great material should be fun. The only time that you should fight over fiction is if someone says that Grease 1 is better than Grease 2, because that, in fact, is an invitation to get picked up by the scruff of your neck. Now we reach the final point of discussion in this last spoiler-free review of Defending Jacob. And you already know what it is. Thirsty tidbits. I know that since some of you have an idea already of where the Barber family is going to be going in this episode, you want to know, will you be getting shirtless Andy Barber content? And I'm really sorry to disappoint you, but you will not. I'm just trying to rip off the band-aid. I don't want you getting your hopes up only to be disappointed, much like I was when I was watching the How to Get Away with Murder finale, and Wes was not even alive. I don't appreciate being baited. Stop it. And I've seen your tweets. I've seen you stand Twitter. I've seen you complaining about how, some of you anyway, were not happy with the pool content. You wanted to see more. You were not happy with what you were given. And I'm not here to invalidate your feelings. That's not my job. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. So you're probably wondering, well, then what thirsty tidbits do I have to look forward to? That is an excellent question, and I am more than happy to answer it to the best of my ability. There were a couple of things that I wrote down in my notes. One of the things that I wrote down, Andy Barber with slightly damp hair. Is that something that interests you? Are you intrigued? If not, don't worry. There are two more that I wrote down. The second one I will be sharing is an eyebrow waggle. Now this one is a blink and you'll miss it sort of thing. And you have to pay close attention because he's turning away from the camera while he does this. And I'm not trying to get you overly excited here, okay? This is not a recurring eyebrow waggle. It's a very simple, just up, down. Maybe that's inconsequential to you, or maybe you'll enjoy that. I'm just saying that I love when my faves get sassy. When Richard Ayoade starts screaming on Big Fat Quiz about his sweets getting stolen, I get my whole life every time I watch it. And now we reach the final one. Now I need you to listen very carefully to me when I say this, and I don't want you to panic. But Chris Evans sings in this episode. Now listen. Okay, I'm not trying to pool bait you. This is very short. I don't want you coming onto my pages next week yelling at me because you thought that you were gonna get a whole elaborate musical number. This is Defending Jacob. It is not West Side Story. I'm just saying that it's a thing that happens. It's there. It's coming, and if you are an Apple TV publicist, please don't come yell at me because I did not spoil anything about the plot. When writing all my reviews about the show over the last few weeks, I have not been revealing plot spoilers early. I've been very rule-abiding. Andy Barber can't relate. So, that's all I'm going to say about episode 8. I know that it's another short review. It's the finale. There's a lot of dramatic stuff that's going to happen, and I'm not about to spoil any of it because you, as a viewer, should experience the drama firsthand as it's meant to be experienced, not by some irrelevant YouTuber ruining it for you early. After episode 8 has aired, we can talk all about it next week when I post my spoiler review. It will be my last review about the show. I'm going to be much more thorough. We're going to talk about not only episode 8, but the show in its entirety and certain things that span as far as character arcs or themes or whatever it is that I end up writing down properly. I haven't written it yet, but I have a rough idea of what I'm going to do. And I'm also going to do a compare and contrast with the book, which I still haven't read, so don't yell at me, but I not only looked up the synopsis, but I've gotten a lot of really helpful, useful feedback from people that have read the book and have written to me to tell me about comparisons between the two and some of the differences. Of course, I've welcomed that because I've already watched the show, so it's not like they're going to ruin what happens in the show to me. I know some people have gotten upset because they've seen spoilers floating around online, and I'm going, well, that's just... It's a thing that happens. It's the internet, and the book already exists. It's not hidden under lock and key. Also, if you watched my last review, which was a spoiler review of episode 7, then you will know that I had said that I'm working on this big video essay, and I was going to share what film it's going to be on because it's a film that has Chris Evans in it. The film that I am doing my next big video essay on is Knives Out. Now, this will probably not surprise people who have been watching my channel for a while because I have mentioned it in passing. I don't remember what video I mentioned it in, but I did mention it. And also, if you follow me on social media, then you know I love this film because I saw it multiple times while it was playing in the cinema and I couldn't get enough of it. I just kept going. Don't ask me when I'm going to post it because I have no idea. I have not finished writing it yet. I know it's going to be a very long one. I would not be surprised if it's my longest video essay to date because there's just so much material to get through in it. Anyway, be sure to like this video because it really helps out my channel, and subscribe so you don't miss my final Defending Jacob video and my Knives Out video essay, and really just anything and everything else that I'm going to post on my channel. If you are new to my channel and you have not seen any of my video essays, I would recommend that you go to my profile of my channel, and it's the first playlist that is displayed. My most recent video essay was on the BBC One drama Gold Digger, which is one of the worst shows I've ever watched. Wow, cannot believe how bad it was. Another recent one that I did was on Stardust, and more specifically, it was addressing how bafflingly sexist it is. I did not remember it being sexist, but then again, that film came out over a decade ago, so I was not watching cinema with as critical of an eye at that age. But if you would rather watch video essays where I talk about films that I actually love, there's one that I did on Charlie's Angels 2000. Brilliant. A cultural reset. I also did one on West Side Story. Phenomenal. One of the greatest musicals of all time. Be sure to follow me on social media as well. I have Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Vero, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.